This was originally supposed to be a Yelan and Shenhe team comp video, but okay. So if I did the math correctly, with C2 Chongyun, I should be able to use Yelan and Shenhe's skill twice within Chongyun's skill. 15% off, 10 seconds for both, 8.5. Plus animation and swap time should be doable. And wait a second, a 1 second cooldown for character swapping? And now Yelan's skill is back to 10 seconds. So all this time, the rotation is not working because I had to stop for a goddamn second? Why? Why the f? Instead, we'll be analyzing and creating a rotation for this Yelan Chaser team, composed of Yelan, as expected, Beidou, Kazuha, and Xingqiu. The concept for the composition of this team stems from an old video of mine in which I utilized off-field characters whose elemental bursts are reliant on normal attacks to activate. What was not normal at the time was how Raida's elemental burst activates Xingqiu's elemental burst, but not Beidou's. Why you gotta do some Hoyoverse? So I decided to swap out Raiden for Yelan to create an actual working team comp, focusing on creating electrocharge reactions, hence the name Taser, though most of the damage mainly comes from their abilities alone, if you exclude Swirl. With a functioning team in place, there are 3 main concerns to address before we deploy this team in combat. First, there is no healer or shielder. Luckily, with a combination of damage reduction from Xingqiu's skill and Beidou's elemental burst, along with a bit of skill to counter with Beidou's skill, there should be no issue, unless you run into these things. In that case, you're screwed. I mean, have you noticed the Doggo's corrosion effect not only goes through Beidou's counter, but also iframes from elemental burst as well? It's a pain indeed. However, sometimes you can even do alright against abominations like these, due to the team's inherently high potential to stagger enemies through electrocharge reactions and abilities. Second, the energy recharge requirements for this team are increased without Raiden or double Electro, therefore potentially requiring a second to refill everyone's elemental burst, creating a bit of downtime. To solve this problem, I slapped a Favonius sword onto Kazuha to have it ideally, with the help of RNG gods, proc multiple times per rotation, along with providing everyone else with this Emblem of Severed Fate's artifact set, as it typically is best in slot for these 3. And finally, third, the team doesn't have a strong on-field damage dealer. That's where the rotation comes into play, which unlike most Yelan teams, is quick swap oriented, where you're typically constantly swapping between characters to use skills or bursts off cooldown, as the abilities of these teams are either off-field or short-time instances of damage. Speaking of rotations, note that the one I'm going to present is a mere guideline for ability order usage, as it can be situational. Even though it's not stated to dodge without the rotation, dodge when necessary. We wouldn't want a character dying mid-rotation now, do we? So, without further ado, let's begin the rotation. We start with Yelan's skill and Beidou's skill. This is so that we can apply Electro and Hydro application for Kazuha to use his skill and burst. Within Taser or Electrocharge teams, it's easy to swirl both Electro and Hydro, as both auras can exist on a single enemy. Therefore, applying VV Shred and providing elemental damage bonus for both elements with his Ascension 4 passive. We start the rotation in this way specifically because Beidou's elemental burst snapshots, along with her being the only source of Electro application to swirl from. Swap to Xingqiu to use his burst and skill with single normal attack hits before and after his elemental skill. This is so that we can not only utilize Xingqiu's rain swords but also fill in downtime while waiting for cooldowns on other abilities. When swapping to Beidou, notice how her skill is still on cooldown. Therefore, we do a single normal attack hit before using her skill and burst. Using normal attacks between abilities to activate off-field elemental bursts while waiting for cooldowns will be a trend throughout this entire rotation. As much as a pain to get used to, how else are we going to get the damage out of these abilities? Probably why no one puts Yelan into quick swap comps, but that's not the point. Anyways, quickly swap back to Kazuha to use his elemental skill to refresh the VV Shred and elemental damage bonus buff. Swap to Yelan to use her skill and burst, then optionally you can use an empowered charge attack. I'm a little hesitant to suggest using her empowered charge attack since she might not have it for the next rotation due to RNG, but for gacha gambling addicts like myself, I think it's alright. Who knows when you hit a breakthrough? You know what's not RNG reliant though? Liking and subscribing if you wish to do so. From here you can decide to either shorten the rotation by normal attacking until Yelan's skill is back up, or extend the rotation. The main reasons to extend the rotation is to use elemental skills to generate more energy particles to build less energy recharge, along with being better suited for AoE situations. Continuing the rotation, swap to Beidou to use her elemental skill and a single normal attack hit to wait for energy particles. Kazuha then uses his elemental skill and normal attack, followed by Yelan using normal attacks to complete the rotation. However, before you repeat the rotation, wait a couple seconds after Yelan's skill is used to swap to Beidou, or else Beidou's skill won't be up in time. And with that, concludes the rotation. The rotation is a little complicated, so here's the rotation order for those who want to try this team comp out. Note that it is assumed that Kazuha is using tap skill rather than hold skill, as they have different cooldowns. Keep that in mind if you want to edit the rotation to include Kazuha's hold skill. You may notice when creating teams in rotation for Yelan, she is typically paired with Xingqiu, due to their buffs being awfully similar in usage for off-field Hydra application. A lesser known fact though is that with those two being the only 2 Hydra units on any given team, it enables her to get the most from her HP scaling abilities with her Ascension 1 passive and Hydra Elemental Resonance. In comparison, you do not get the most HP from having 4 different elements within a Yelan team. This doesn't restrict Yu'lon from being solely used with Xingqiu, but heavily incentivizes people to do so. Since Yu'lon's Ascension 4 passive is a direct buff, quick swap teams allow for a buff to be applied to multiple members of the team. To say whether this type of playstyle is worth it or not is hard to say, as Yu'lon's best teams are single target focused, and most single target teams have on-field damage dealers, but who am I to know? I just try to experiment for fun. Even though Yu'lon specialized within single target damage, I thought it would be interesting to experiment with team comps that focus on AoE and optimize them to the best of my ability. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this rotation guide. Let me know what other teams you'd like to see be showcased. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your night.